The signal came through every screen on Earth at the same time. Televisions, computers, phones, and even the giant displays in city centers all showed the same thing. Nobody asked for it. Nobody could turn it off. The image was clear. A massive alien ship floated in the darkness of space. Its hull was dark purple, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a sickly green light. The ship was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. In front of the ship, hundreds of smaller vessels hung in space. They looked like metal insects with long, thin legs. Inside those vessels were humans, 10 million humans. People from every country, every age, every background. They had been taken from Earth over the past 6 months. Nobody knew where they went. Families reported missing persons. Governments tried to hide the truth. But the numbers kept growing. 10 million people vanished without explanation. Until now. A voice spoke through the broadcast. It did not sound human. The words were translated into every language on Earth, spoken in a cold, mechanical tone that made people feel sick to their stomachs. People of Earth, you are weak. You are primitive. You do not deserve to exist among the stars. We are the Krell. We have watched your world for many cycles. We have decided that humanity must learn its place in the universe. The camera view changed. Now everyone could see inside one of the smaller ships. Humans were packed together in metal cages. They looked terrified. Some were crying. Others sat in silence, too shocked to react. A young woman pressed her face against the bars. Her name was Hana. She was a teacher from Busan. She had been taken from her apartment 3 months ago while watering her plants on the balcony. Now she stared at the camera with hollow eyes. "Please," she whispered. "Please help us." The alien voice spoke again. "Your species is too dangerous to be allowed freedom. You make weapons. You destroy your own planet. You fight each other over meaningless things. We will show you the price of your violence." On Earth, billions of people watched. In Seoul, a man named Taemin sat frozen in his living room. His sister was among the missing. He had not seen her in 4 months. Now he saw her face on the screen, trapped in one of those cages. In New York, the President of the United States stood in the Situation Room with military advisors. They had known about the disappearances. They had known something was wrong, but they never expected this. In Beijing, Moscow, London, and every other capital city, leaders watched the same broadcast. The world had stopped. Everything stopped. The alien voice continued. "We will now demonstrate what happens to species that refuse to accept their place. Watch carefully. Learn from this moment." The view changed again. The camera pulled back to show all the small ships at once. They formed a perfect circle around the large vessel. The humans inside the cages began to scream. Somehow, the sound came through the broadcast. 10 million voices crying out at once. Taemin stood up from his couch, his hands shook. "No," he said. "No, please." The alien ships began to glow. A bright yellow light built up inside them, growing stronger and stronger. The screaming got louder. Then one by one the ships exploded. The light was blinding. When it faded, there was nothing left. No ships, no metal, no cages, no people. Just empty space and debris floating in the darkness. 10 million humans died in less than 5 seconds. The alien voice spoke one final time. "This is your warning. Do not reach for the stars. Do not build weapons that point to the sky. Stay on your planet. Accept your place. If you do not obey, we will return. Next time, we will not take 10 million. We will take 10 billion. The broadcast ended. The screens went black. Then they returned to normal programming as if nothing had happened. But everything had happened. Across the Earth, the silence lasted for exactly 30 seconds. Then, the screaming began. People poured into the streets. Some fell to their knees. Others threw rocks at the sky. Parents who lost children wailed in agony. Brothers and sisters who lost siblings felt their hearts break into pieces. In Seoul, Taemin walked out of his apartment. He did not cry. He could not cry. He felt something else, something cold and hard forming in his chest. He looked up at the night sky and whispered a single word. No. That same night, the governments of Earth held an emergency meeting. It was conducted through video call because nobody had time to travel. Every major nation sent representatives. The mood was dark. A woman named Ji-won spoke first. She was the defense minister of South Korea. Her voice was steady, but her eyes showed rage. They think they have won, she said. They think we will be afraid. They think we will hide and obey like frightened animals. The American president spoke next. What can we do? We do not have weapons that can reach them. We do not even know where they are. Then we build them, Ji-won said. We build weapons that can reach anywhere. We build ships that can travel to their worlds. We build bombs that can crack planets in half. A Russian general nodded. She is right. We cannot let this stand. If we do nothing, we tell the universe that humanity can be killed without consequence. The British Prime Minister shook his head. That will take years, decades, maybe centuries. We do not have that technology. Then we invent it, Ji-won said. Her voice rose. We invent it in months. We put every scientist, every engineer, every brilliant mind on this single task. We stop fighting each other and fight them instead. Around the world, similar conversations happened, not just in government buildings, but in homes, in bars, in schools. Humanity had been humiliated. Humanity had been hurt. But more than that, humanity had been challenged, and humanity did not back down from challenges. In a small apartment in Seoul, Taemin sat at his computer. He was an engineer. He worked on satellite systems for a telecommunications company. Before tonight, his job seemed boring. Now, he had a new purpose. He opened his email and began typing. The message went to his supervisor. I want to work on the defense project. Whatever we are building to respond to this attack, I want to be part of it. My sister died today. I will not let her death be meaningless. He sent the message. Then he opened a new document and began writing down ideas. He did not know if any of them would work, but he had to try. All over Earth, millions of people did the same thing. Scientists who studied stars began studying weapons. Engineers who built bridges began building warships. Teachers who educated children began teaching them about physics and chemistry and math, because the next generation would need to be smarter than any generation before. The Krell thought they had sent a message. They thought they had put humanity in its place. They were wrong. What they had actually done was wake something up. Something that had always been inside humanity, but had never been fully unleashed. Something primal and unstoppable. They had given humanity a common enemy, and that was their first mistake. 5 days after the broadcast, the world looked different. Every military base on Earth was working at full capacity. Every research facility had lights on 24 hours a day. Every factory that could be converted to military production was already building something new. The United Nations held a vote. For the first time in its history, every single nation agreed on something. They called it the Unity Protocol. All borders would remain open for the movement of scientists and resources. All military technology would be shared. All grudges would be put aside. The goal was simple: build a fleet capable of finding and destroying the Krell. Taemin stood in a massive warehouse in Seoul. It had been a car manufacturing plant 6 days ago. Now it was something else. The assembly lines had been stripped out. In their place were computer stations, welding equipment, and massive metal frames that reached toward the ceiling. A woman approached him. Her name was Yuna. She was a physicist from the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. She looked tired but determined. "You're Taemin?" she asked. "Yes. I read your proposal about the targeting system. It was good. We are going to use it." Taemin felt something like pride, but it was mixed with sadness. His sister would never know that her death had pushed him to create something important. Yuna continued. "We are building the first ship here. Well, not a ship exactly. More like a weapons platform, something that can be launched into orbit and controlled from the ground." "How long until it is ready?" Taemin asked. 3 months if we are lucky. 6 months if we run into problems. That is too long. Yuna nodded. I know, but we are working as fast as we can. This technology does not exist yet. We are inventing it as we go. Around the world, similar projects were beginning. In California, engineers were developing a new type of engine that could propel ships at a fraction of light speed. In Germany, scientists were creating energy weapons based on captured solar power. In Japan, researchers were building artificial intelligence systems that could pilot unmanned fighters. And in a secret facility beneath the mountains of Switzerland, a different kind of weapon was being designed. A man named Doyon worked in that facility. He was a weapons designer, someone who had spent his career building missiles and bombs. Before the attack, he felt guilty about his work. After the attack, he felt only purpose. The weapon he was designing was called Project Sunbreaker. It was based on a simple idea. If you could compress enough energy into a small enough space, you could create a reaction that would tear apart anything nearby. Even a star. His supervisor, a French woman named Marie, reviewed his blueprints. This is insane, she said. I know. If this goes wrong, we could destroy ourselves. I know. We are going to build it anyway, are we not? Doyon nodded. Yes, Marie sighed. Good. Because they need to understand what they did. They need to see their own worlds burn. Back in Seoul, Taemin worked 18 hours a day. He barely slept. He barely ate. When he closed his eyes, he saw his sister's face in that cage. It gave him the energy to keep going. One night, Yuna found him asleep at his computer. She gently shook his shoulder. You need to rest, she said. I will rest when they are dead, Taemin replied. If you do not rest, you will make mistakes. Mistakes cost lives. Taemin knew she was right. He stood up and stretched. His back hurt. His eyes hurt. Everything hurt. How is the project going? He asked. Yuna smiled. It was a tired smile, but genuine. Better than expected. We finished the first weapons platform yesterday. We are calling it Heaven's Fist. It will launch next week. One weapon will not be enough. It is not just one. China built 2. America built 3. Russia built 4. Every nation with the capability is building as many as they can. By the end of the year, we will have 50 of them in orbit. Taemin felt hope for the first time since the attack. 50 weapons platforms, 50 chances to strike back. But Yuna's expression darkened. There is a problem, though. What problem? We do not know where the Krell are. We do not know where they came from. Space is big, Taemin. Really big. We could search for 100 years and never find them. Taemin thought about this. Then we make them come to us. How? We do exactly what they told us not to do. We build more weapons. We point them at the sky. We make noise. We make ourselves look dangerous. They will notice. They will come back to finish what they started. Yuna stared at him. That is risky. If they come back before we are ready, they will destroy us. They will destroy us anyway if we do nothing. At least this way. We choose when and where the fight happens. Word of Taemin's strategy spread through the defense networks. Military commanders debated it. Scientists analyzed it. Politicians worried about it. In the end, they agreed. It was risky, but it was also the only way to draw the Krell out of hiding. The plan was called Operation Lighthouse. Earth would light itself up like a beacon. Every weapons platform would fire into empty space at regular intervals. Radio signals would broadcast human defiance across the galaxy. Giant structures would be built on the moon, visible from deep space. The message was clear. Humanity was not afraid. Humanity was ready for war. 3 months after the broadcast, Heaven's Fist launched into orbit. The launch was broadcast across the world. People gathered in streets and homes to watch. When the platform reached its position above the Earth, it fired its first shot. A beam of concentrated energy shot into space. It was bright enough to be seen from the ground, a line of white light that pierced the darkness. The beam traveled for 3 seconds before dissipating. In Seoul, Taemin watched from the warehouse. Yuna stood next to him. It works, she said quietly. It works, Taemin agreed. Around the world, celebrations erupted. People cheered. They hugged each other. They cried tears of hope instead of tears of sorrow. But not everyone celebrated. In the command center of the United Nations Space Defense Initiative, a woman named Sunhee watched the data carefully. She was a strategic analyst, someone trained to think several steps ahead. She turned to her colleague, a Brazilian man named Carlos. They will come, she said. I know. Are we ready? Carlos looked at the readiness reports on his screen. 50 weapons platforms in orbit, 200 fighter craft, 5,000 nuclear missiles retrofitted with new guidance systems. It was more military power than humanity had ever assembled. No, he said honestly. But we are more ready than we were yesterday. Sun-Hee nodded. That would have to be enough. In the Swiss facility, Doyen put the finishing touches on Project Sunbreaker. The weapon was complete. It sat in a reinforced chamber, a sphere of dark metal covered in cooling systems and power conduits. Marie stood next to him. How many planets can it destroy? We will not know until we use it. The simulations say anywhere from 3 to 7 depending on their size and composition. And if we use it near Earth? Then Earth dies too. This weapon does not care about sides. It just destroys. Marie was quiet for a moment. Then she said, we will only use it as a last resort. If they come to Earth with a fleet we cannot stop, we will take them with us. Doyen understood. Project Sunbreaker was not a weapon of victory. It was a weapon of revenge, a promise that even if humanity died, the Krell would die too. 6 months after the broadcast, Operation Lighthouse was in full effect. The weapons platforms fired into space every hour. Radio signals broadcast human defiance in 1,000 languages. The moon now had 3 massive structures on its surface, each one spelling out a message in letters 10 kilometers tall. The message was simple, come and try. In Seoul, Taemin finally took a day off. He visited his sister's memorial. It was a small shrine in his apartment with her picture and some flowers. He lit incense and sat quietly. We are ready, he told her picture. Or at least we are as ready as we can be. If they come back, we will make them regret it. I promise. He did not know if she could hear him, but saying the words made him feel better. That night the sensors detected something. A signal was coming from deep space. It was the same frequency the Krell had used for their broadcast. The signal contained only 3 words translated into every human language. We are coming. The warning gave humanity 3 weeks. 3 weeks to prepare for the largest battle in human history. 3 weeks to finish the weapons that were still being built. 3 weeks to say goodbye to loved ones just in case. In the command center, Sun-Hee worked without stopping. She coordinated with military forces on every continent. Sleep became a luxury she could not afford. Coffee and determination kept her going. The plan was clear. When the Krell fleet arrived, humanity would hit them with everything at once. No holding back. No second chances. Either the Krell would die, or humanity would die trying. Taemin spent those 3 weeks making improvements to the targeting systems. Every weapons platform needed to fire with perfect accuracy. One missed shot could mean the difference between victory and extinction. On the 10th day, a young technician named Juan approached him. We have a problem with Platform 17, Juan said. The targeting computer keeps showing errors. Taemin reviewed the data. The problem was in the code he had written. A small mistake, but it could cause the platform to miss its targets by several kilometers. I will fix it, Taemin said. He worked through the night, rewriting sections of code and running simulations. By morning, the problem was solved. Platform 17 was operational again. Yuna brought him coffee. You look terrible, she said. I feel terrible. After this is over, you should take a vacation. Taemin laughed. It was a bitter sound. If we survive this, I will sleep for a month. In Switzerland, Doyen prepared Project Sunbreaker for deployment. The weapon was loaded onto a special transport ship. If the battle went badly, the ship would carry Sunbreaker to the Krell homeworld, or at least to whatever world they had come from. Marie helped him with the final checks. Do you think we will win? She asked. Doyen considered the question carefully. I think we will make them wish they never found us. That was not exactly an answer, but it was honest. On the 18th day, the sensors picked up the Krell fleet. They were still 2 days away, traveling at incredible speed. The images came through clearly. 15 massive ships, each one the size of a city. Hundreds of smaller escort vessels. Thousands of fighters. In the command center, Carlos showed the data to Sun-Hee. That is more than we expected, he said quietly. I know. Do we have enough firepower? Sun-Hee did the math in her head. 50 weapons platforms, 200 fighters, 5,000 missiles, against 15 capital ships and thousands of enemies. Probably not, she admitted, but we are going to try anyway. The President of the United Nations addressed the world one final time before the battle. "People of Earth," he said, "in 2 days we will face an enemy that wants to destroy us. They think we are weak. They think we will surrender. They are wrong. We are not weak. We are not afraid. We are humanity, and we do not bow to anyone." In Seoul, millions of people watched the speech on giant screens. Some cried. Others cheered. Most just felt a grim determination settle over them. Taemin watched from the warehouse. Next to him, Yuna took his hand. Neither of them said anything. They did not need to. The final day arrived. The Krell fleet entered the solar system. They moved toward Earth slowly, confidently. They were not hiding. They were not sneaking. They wanted humanity to see them coming. On the command center screen, Sun-hee watched their approach. The lead ship was enormous, covered in those same glowing symbols. It was the same ship from the broadcast. The one that had watched 10 million humans die. "All platforms, prepare to fire," Sun-hee said into her headset. Her voice was calm. Across the planet, 50 weapons platforms powered up. The targeting systems that Taemin had designed locked onto the enemy ships. Fighter pilots climbed into their cockpits. Missile silos opened their doors. The Krell ships stopped just outside the orbit of the moon. They hung in space, waiting. Then the same mechanical voice from the broadcast spoke again. It came through every speaker on Earth. "You did not listen. You built weapons. You pointed them at the sky. You defied our warning. Now you will face the consequences." Sun-hee picked up her microphone. She knew the Krell could hear her. "You killed 10 million of us," she said. "You thought that would make us afraid. Instead, it made us angry. Come closer. We have something to show you." There was a moment of silence. Then the Krell fleet began moving forward again. "All platforms," Sun-hee said. "Fire!" 50 beams of concentrated energy shot through space at once. They moved at the speed of light, crossing the distance to the Krell fleet in less than 2 seconds. The lead ship tried to raise shields, but it was too slow. 3 beams hit it directly. The ship's hull cracked open like an egg. Atmosphere vented into space. The glowing symbols flickered and died. But the ship did not explode. It was damaged, badly damaged, but still functional. "Fire again," Sun-hee ordered. The platforms needed 30 seconds to recharge between shots. Those 30 seconds felt like an eternity. The Krell fleet responded. Green energy blasts shot from their weapons. They were aiming for the platforms. "Evasive maneuvers," Sun-hee called out. The platforms had small thrusters that let them move. It was not much, but it was enough to dodge some of the incoming fire. Not all of them were lucky. Platform 7 took a direct hit. It exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Platform 12 and Platform 23 followed seconds later. "Fire!" Sun-hee shouted. 47 beams lanced out. This time the Krell were ready. Most of the ships had their shields up. The beams hit the shields and scattered harmlessly. But 2 ships had not raised their shields in time. The beams punched through their hulls. One ship lost power and began drifting. The other split in half, both pieces tumbling through space. "Launch the fighters," Carlos said. 200 human fighters launched from bases on Earth and the Moon. They were small and fast, designed to get close to the enemy ships and attack weak points. A pilot named Kiwan led the first squadron. She had been a commercial airline pilot before the attack. Now she flew a fighter equipped with plasma cannons and nuclear-tipped missiles. "Stay in formation," she told her squadron. "Pick your targets and do not waste shots." The Krell launched their own fighters. They looked like metal insects, just like the ships that had held the human prisoners. But these were armed and dangerous. The 2 fighter groups met in the space between Earth and the Moon. The battle was chaotic and violent. Kaiwan locked onto an enemy fighter and fired. Her plasma cannons hit it dead center. The alien ship exploded in a flash of green light. "One down," she said. But then 3 more enemy fighters appeared on her sensors. They were fast, faster than she expected. She had to use every trick she knew to avoid their weapons fire. Behind her, one of her squadron members was not as lucky. His fighter took a hit and exploded. "Stay focused," Kiwan said, even though her heart was pounding. She looped around and came at the enemy fighters from below. 2 quick shots and another enemy went down. Back at the command center, Sun-hee watched the battle unfold. The platforms were still firing, but they were losing effectiveness. The Krell had adapted to the attacks. Their shields were holding. "We need to hit them harder," Carlos said. "Launch the missiles," Sun-hee ordered. 5,000 missiles launched at once. They came from every continent, from underground silos and mobile launchers and submarines. They streaked into space, leaving white contrails behind them. The Krell tried to shoot them down. Their point defense systems destroyed hundreds of missiles. But there were too many. Thousands got through. The missiles hit the Krell shields like a hammer. The shields flickered and failed. Then the missiles hit the ships themselves. Nuclear fire bloomed in space. 5, 6, 7 Krell ships took critical damage. One exploded completely, torn apart by dozens of nuclear blasts. In Seoul, people watching on the screens cheered. They were winning. Against all odds, they were actually winning. But Sun-hee did not cheer. She watched her screens carefully. The Krell still had 8 capital ships left. And they were getting angry. The lead ship, the damaged one that had survived the first attack, began to glow. A different kind of glow, not green but red. It was charging some kind of weapon. "What is that?" Carlos asked. Sun-hee checked her instruments. The energy readings were off the scale. "I do not know," she said. "But we need to destroy that ship right now." She opened the channel to all remaining platforms. "All units target the lead ship. Fire everything you have." The platforms turned and fired. 35 beams hit the lead ship at once. The shields held for a moment. Then they collapsed. The beams tore into the ship's hull, ripping it apart section by section. But before the ship died, it fired its weapon. A massive red beam shot toward Earth. It was not aimed at the weapons platforms or the fighters. It was aimed directly at the planet's surface. "Impact in 10 seconds, Carlos said. His voice shook. The beam hit the Pacific Ocean. The water exploded into steam. A shockwave spread out in all directions. Tsunamis formed instantly, racing toward every coastline. But the beam did not penetrate deep enough to reach the ocean floor. It dispersed its energy into the water and atmosphere. Millions would die from the tsunamis and the heat, but Earth itself survived. Sun-hee made a decision in that moment. A cold, hard decision. "Contact Doyon in Switzerland," she said. "Tell him to deploy Sunbreaker." Doyon received the order while standing in the control room of the transport ship. Marie was next to him. They both knew what this meant. "Are you sure?" he asked through the communication link. "Yes," Sun-hee replied. "They just attacked Earth directly. They need to understand that we will do the same to them. We do not know where their homeworld is. Then follow their ships when they retreat. Find their worlds. Destroy them." Doyon looked at Marie. She nodded. "Understood," Doyon said. "Launching Sunbreaker now." The transport ship separated from its orbital station. Its engines fired, pushing it away from Earth and toward the battle. Inside the cargo bay, Project Sunbreaker sat in its reinforced cradle, waiting. In space, the battle continued. Kiwan had lost half her squadron. The enemy fighters were tough and their pilots were skilled. But the humans were motivated by something stronger than skill. They were motivated by rage. She spotted a damaged Krell capital ship. Its shields were down and its hull was cracked open. It was trying to retreat. "Squadron," she called out. "Follow me." Her remaining fighters formed up behind her. They flew straight at the damaged ship, firing everything they had. Plasma bolts and missiles hammered the ship's wounds, tearing them wider. The ship tried to turn its weapons on the fighters, but it was too slow. More explosions rippled across its hull. Then something inside the ship detonated. The entire vessel came apart in a massive fireball. "Target destroyed," Kiwan reported. She felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. Back on Earth, the tsunamis hit the coastlines. In Japan, emergency sirens wailed as walls of water crashed into cities. In California, people ran for higher ground. In Australia, the ocean rose up and swallowed entire beaches. But the coastal cities had been evacuated when the Krell fleet first appeared. Most people had moved inland, to shelters and safe zones. The death toll would be in the thousands, not millions. Taemin watched the reports from the warehouse. The targeting systems were all working perfectly, but seeing the destruction on Earth made him feel sick. This was what the Krell had brought to humanity. Death and disaster. "Focus," Yuna said next to him. "We need to finish this," she was right. Taemin pushed his emotions down and focused on the task. The weapons platforms were running low on power. They needed time to recharge their main capacitors. "How much time do we have?" he asked. 5 minutes until the platforms can fire again at full strength." 5 minutes. It might as well have been 5 hours. The Krell were pressing their attack. 6 capital ships remained, and they were targeting the platforms systematically. Platform 5 exploded. Then Platform 8. Then Platform 11. We are losing them too fast, Carlos said in the command center. Sun-Hee watched the tactical display. The Krell were winning through attrition. They could take the losses better than humanity could, but then the transport ship appeared on her screen. It was moving fast, heading straight for the Krell fleet. Doyun, she said into the communication link. Status report. We are in position, Doyun replied. Preparing to deploy Sunbreaker. Do you have a target? The 3 Krell ships on the left flank. They are clustered together. If Sunbreaker works as designed, it should take all 3 of them. Do it. The transport ship released its cargo. Project Sunbreaker drifted in space for a moment, a dark metal sphere surrounded by stars. Then its systems activated. The sphere began to spin, faster and faster until it became a blur. Energy built up inside it, contained by powerful magnetic fields. The temperature inside the sphere rose to levels found in the core of stars. Doyun and Marie watched from the transport ship's bridge. They had moved to a safe distance, but they could still see the sphere on their instruments. Energy levels at 90%, Marie said. 95%, 100%. Deployment in 3, 2, 1. Sunbreaker released its energy all at once. The explosion was not like a normal bomb. It was not fire or shrapnel. It was pure destructive force, a wave of energy that tore apart everything in its path at the molecular level. The wave hit the 3 Krell ships instantly. There was no time to raise shields or evade. The ships simply ceased to exist. They were there one moment and gone the next, reduced to atoms and scattered across space. But the wave did not stop there. It continued outward, growing weaker but still deadly. 2 more Krell ships caught on the edge of the blast were heavily damaged. Their hulls cracked and their systems failed. On Earth, people watched in stunned silence. The explosion had been visible from the ground, a brief flash of light brighter than the sun. In the command center, Carlos stared at his screen. What was that? He whispered. That, Sun-Hee said, was humanity's promise. If you attack us, we will destroy you. Only 1 Krell capital ship remained undamaged. The others were destroyed or crippled. The enemy fighters began to retreat, fleeing back toward their surviving ships. Kiwan and her squadron chased them down. They showed no mercy. Every enemy fighter they caught, they destroyed. This is for the 10 million, Kiwan said as she fired her last missile. It hit an enemy fighter and blew it apart. The last Krell capital ship tried to escape. It turned away from Earth and fired its engines, accelerating hard. Do not let it get away, Sun-Hee ordered. But the platforms were still recharging. The fighters were too far away. The missiles were all used up. Then Doyun's voice came through the communication link. I have a solution, he said. What solution? We still have the transport ship. It is fast and it has enough fuel to catch that Krell ship. We also have the equipment we use to build Sunbreaker. If we modify it, we can create a smaller version. Not planet-killing, but definitely ship-killing, Marie spoke up. It will take us at least an hour to make the modifications. Then start now, Sun-Hee said. Follow that ship. Find out where it goes. The transport ship changed course and began pursuit. The Krell capital ship was fast, but the transport ship was faster. Slowly, the distance between them closed. Doyun and Marie worked in the cargo bay, rebuilding the Sunbreaker equipment into something smaller. It was dangerous work. One mistake and they would blow themselves up. Hand me that power coupling, Doyun said. Marie passed it to him. Are you scared? Terrified, you? Same. They worked in silence for a while, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. Around them, the transport ship shook slightly as it pushed its engines to the limit. After 45 minutes, they had something that looked like it might work. It was not elegant or beautiful. It was a mess of wires and components held together with magnetic clamps, but the theory was sound. This will destroy us too, Marie said quietly. Doyun nodded. I know. Are you okay with that? He thought about his answer carefully. Before the attack, he would have said no. He had a life, goals, people he cared about, but after seeing 10 million humans die, after seeing Earth attacked, his perspective had changed. If destroying this ship saves Earth, he said, then yes, I'm okay with that. Marie smiled sadly. Me too. They reported to Sun-Hee that the weapon was ready. How close do you need to be? Sun-Hee asked. Within 100 meters, Doyun said. That close? The weapon is much smaller than the original Sunbreaker. It has a limited range. Sun-Hee understood what that meant. Doyun and Marie would not survive. but she also understood that they knew and accepted it. "Thank you," she said simply. The transport ship caught up to the Krell capital ship. The alien vessel tried to fire its weapons, but most of them were damaged or destroyed. A few shots hit the transport ship, but its armor held. Doyen piloted the ship closer. 50 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters. Through the window, he could see the Krell ship's hull. It was covered in those glowing symbols, just like in the broadcast. He felt a surge of hatred looking at those symbols. 10 meters, Marie said. 5 meters. Close enough. Activating weapon. The modified Sunbreaker began to charge. The transport ship shook violently. Warning alarms blared. Doyen looked at Marie. "It has been an honor working with you." "Same. To you." The weapon reached full charge and released its energy. The transport ship and the Krell capital ship both disappeared in a flash of light. On Earth, Sun-Hee watched the signal from the transport ship vanish from her screen. She closed her eyes for a moment. "They did it," Carlos said quietly. "Yes." Around the planet, people realized that the battle was over. Every Krell ship was destroyed. The sky was clear. Earth had survived. The celebrations started slowly. A few cheers here and there, then more. Then the entire planet erupted in joy and relief. In Seoul, Taemin stood in the warehouse and let out a long breath he did not know he had been holding. Yuna hugged him, and he hugged her back. "We won," she said. "We won," he agreed. But victory felt hollow. 10 million humans were still dead. Thousands more died from the tsunamis. Doyen and Marie sacrificed themselves. The cost had been terrible. Still, humanity survived, and more than that, humanity had proven something important. They had proven that they could not be pushed around. They could not be threatened. They could not be destroyed. The Krell came to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, they learned one themselves. Do not mess with humanity. 3 days after the battle, Earth began to recover. The tsunamis had caused damage, but it could be repaired. The debris from destroyed weapons platforms fell harmlessly into the ocean. The fighter pilots who survived became heroes. Memorials were planned for those who did not, but Sun-Hee could not celebrate. She sat in the command center staring at data from the battle. Something bothered her, Carlos noticed. "What is wrong?" We won this battle," Sun-Hee said, but the Krell did not send their entire fleet. They sent 15 ships. That was a punishment force, not an invasion force. "You think there are more of them?" "I know there are. The question is where." She pulled up the tracking data from Doyen's transport ship. Before it was destroyed, it had followed the last Krell ship for nearly an hour. The ship had been heading in a specific direction, toward a region of space far from Earth. "They were going home," Carlos said. "Exactly, and if we can find their home, we can make sure they never attack us again." Sun-Hee sent out a message to every space agency and military on Earth. She needed volunteers for a mission, a dangerous mission, a one-way mission. Hundreds of people volunteered within hours. Thousands by the end of the day. Everyone wanted to be part of finishing what had started. In Seoul, Taemin saw the call for volunteers. He looked at Yuna. "I have to go," he said. "I know. Will you wait for me?" Yuna smiled. "No, because I am coming with you." They were not alone. Kiwon volunteered. So did hundreds of other fighter pilots, engineers, scientists, and soldiers. A woman named Mireille, who had lost her entire family in the attack, signed up. A man named Hyun, who was a medical doctor, joined the mission to help treat any wounded. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Humanity would build a fleet of ships, real ships, not just weapons platforms, ships that could travel far from Earth, carry enough supplies for a long journey, and pack enough firepower to destroy anything they found. The ships were called the Reckoning Fleet. Construction began immediately. Every nation contributed. The ships were built in orbit, too large to be constructed on the ground. They looked strange, cobbled together from human technology and reverse-engineered Krell parts salvaged from destroyed ships. 6 months after the battle, the first ship was complete. It was named the Hana, after the teacher from Busan who had died in the broadcast. Taemin thought that was fitting. More ships followed. The Doyen, the Marie, the Earth's Fury, the Last Warning. One by one they took shape in orbit. Taemin worked on the navigation systems. If they were going to travel across space to find the Krell homeworld, They needed incredibly precise calculations. One mistake and they could end up lost in empty space forever. Yuna helped design the life support systems. The journey could take years, maybe decades. The ships needed to keep their crews alive for however long it took. Kiwan trained the fighter pilots. They had learned from the battle. The next time they faced the Krell, they would be better prepared. 1 year after the battle, the Reckoning fleet was ready. 25 ships, each one carrying a crew of 500 people. 12,500 humans in total, setting off to deliver humanity's response to the massacre. The day before launch, Sun-Hee addressed the crews. The speech was broadcast across Earth. "You are about to embark on the most important mission in human history," she said. "The Krell came to our world. They killed 10 million of us. They attacked our planet. They thought we would cower in fear. They were wrong." She paused, looking at the camera with steel in her eyes. "You carry with you the hopes of all humanity. Find the Krell, find their worlds, and show them what happens when you attack Earth. Show them that humanity does not forgive. Humanity does not forget, and humanity does not back down." The crews cheered. They were ready. The next day, the Reckoning fleet launched. The ships left Earth's orbit in a single formation, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. People on Earth watched until the ships disappeared from view. Taemin stood on the bridge of the Hana. Yuna was next to him, monitoring the life support systems. Around them, the crew worked quietly and efficiently. "Course set," the navigator said, following the trajectory from the transport ship data. "Engage engines," the captain ordered. Her name was Sora, a former admiral in the South Korean Navy. She had lost her son in the original attack. The ship accelerated, faster and faster until Earth was just a blue dot behind them. Then it disappeared completely and they were alone in space with only their mission to guide them. The journey took 3 years. 3 years of traveling through empty space. 3 years of eating recycled food and breathing recycled air. 3 years of training and preparing and thinking about what they would do when they found the Krell. Some crew members struggled with the isolation. Others found peace in the routine. Taemin spent his time improving the ship's systems and thinking about his sister. He had avenged her already, but it still did not feel like enough. Yuna kept him grounded. They spent evenings together in the recreation room, playing games and talking about what they would do after the mission was complete. If they survived, Kiwan trained her pilots every single day. They ran simulations of every possible combat scenario. By the end of the 3 years, they were the best fighter squadron humanity had ever produced. Then, finally, the sensors picked up something. A signal, then multiple signals. Then hundreds of signals. "We found them," the navigator said. Captain Sora stood up from her chair. "All ships, battle stations. This is what we came for." The Reckoning fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel and found themselves in a solar system with 3 planets. 2 were barren rocks. The third was covered in purple oceans and green continents, and in orbit around that third planet were ships. Hundreds of Krell ships, maybe thousands. "That is their home world," Yuna whispered. Taemin nodded. "That is their home world." Sun-Hee had given Captain Sora specific orders before the fleet launched. The orders were sealed, only to be opened when they found the Krell homeworld. Sora opened them now and read them carefully. The orders were simple. Make them understand. Sora knew what that meant. She opened a communication channel to the Krell planet. "This is Captain Sora of Earth. 1 year ago, you attacked our world. You killed 10 million of our people. You thought we would be afraid. You were wrong. We are here to deliver Earth's response." There was silence for a moment. Then a Krell voice responded. It was the same mechanical tone from the broadcast. "You are far from home, humans. You are outnumbered. Surrender and we will make your deaths quick." "No," Sora said simply. "You do not understand. We are not here to surrender. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to make you extinct." She closed the channel and turned to her crew. "All ships arm weapons. Target their orbital stations first. Then target their cities. Do not stop until there is nothing left." The fleet opened fire. 25 human ships against thousands of Krell vessels. It should have been a hopeless fight. But the humans had advantages. They had better weapons, learned from studying destroyed Krell ships. They had better tactics, developed through 3 years of planning. And they had something the Krell did not have: absolute determination. The orbital stations exploded first. The Krell ships tried to form defensive formations, but the humans were too fast, too coordinated. They moved like a swarm, each ship supporting the others, creating fields of fire that nothing could survive. Kiwan led her fighters into the thick of battle. They darted between enemy ships, targeting weak points and vulnerable systems. Every shot counted. Every kill mattered. "Stay focused," she called to her squadron. "Remember what they did to us." Her pilots did not need the reminder. They all knew someone who died in the original attack. They all had reasons to fight. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Krell fleet was destroyed. Burning wreckage orbited the planet. Bodies floated in space. The purple oceans below were stained with debris. But the reckoning fleet was not finished. "Begin orbital bombardment," Captain Sora ordered. The ships turned their weapons on the planet itself. Energy beams lanced down from space, striking cities and military bases. Nuclear missiles followed, each one carrying enough power to level mountains. The Krell tried to fight back. Ground-based weapons fired at the human ships. Some shots hit home. The ship named Last Warning took critical damage and had to pull back. The Earth's Fury lost power and drifted, but the bombardment continued. Taman watched from the bridge. He felt sick seeing the destruction, but he did not look away. This was the price. This was what happened when you attacked humanity. Yuna put a hand on his shoulder. "Is this what your sister would have wanted?" Taman thought about that. No, she was kind. She would have wanted peace. Then why are we doing this? Because peace is only possible when our enemies fear us. The Krell need to learn that attacking Earth has consequences. Terrible consequences. The bombardment continued for 2 days. By the end, the Krell homeworld was in ruins. Cities were flattened. Forests burned. The oceans boiled in places where the bombardment was heaviest. Millions, perhaps billions of Krell died. Captain Sora finally gave the order to stop. "That is enough," she said quietly. The fleet withdrew to a safe distance. Sensors swept the planet looking for signs of life. There were survivors, but not many. The Krell civilization was broken. Sora opened a final communication to the planet. "People of the Krell Empire, you came to Earth and killed 10 million of us. You broadcast it to show your power. You wanted to teach us a lesson. Now we have taught you one. This is what happens when you attack humanity. Remember this day. Remember what you lost, and never ever threaten Earth again." She closed the channel. The Reckoning fleet began its journey home. The trip back took another 3 years. The ships were damaged and running low on supplies. Several crew members died from injuries sustained in the battle, but they made it. When Earth appeared on the sensors, Taman felt emotions he could not describe. Relief, joy, sadness, guilt. "We are home," Yuna said next to him. "Yes, we are home." The fleet entered Earth orbit. People on the ground celebrated. The crews were heroes. They had done the impossible. They had taken humanity's revenge across the stars, but Taman did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. He and Yuna returned to Seoul. The city had been rebuilt after the tsunami damage. It looked almost normal, except for the memorials on every corner. Memorials to the 10 million who died. Memorials to the people who died in the battle. Memorials to Doyen and Marie. Taman visited his sister's memorial one last time. He knelt in front of her picture. "It is done," he told her. "The Krell will never hurt anyone again. I hope you can rest now. I hope we all can." He left flowers and walked away. That night, he and Yuna sat on a rooftop looking up at the stars. The same stars that hid threats and dangers. The same stars that humanity would one day explore. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. "Now?" Taman thought about it. "Now we build. We make sure Earth is ready for whatever comes next. We make sure no one can ever hurt us again. And if someone tries?" Taman smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen terrible things and survived. Then we show them what we showed the Krell. We show them that humanity does not forget. And humanity does not forgive. High above Earth, the remaining weapons platforms kept watch. New ships were being built. New weapons were being designed. Humanity had learned its lesson. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Never again would they be victims. The universe was vast and full of unknowns. But one thing was now certain. Earth was not a target. Earth was a warning. Attack humanity and your worlds would burn.